pray and ask for God's wisdom, that we may do what is right in his eyes. Maybe that time has come, and only he has the power, the right and the justice to decide what is the way forward for all of us. Yoweri Kaguta Museveni signed yesterday. The three parties involved in the Iranian war and Palestine, Museveni has blamed none. In fact, he supports all of them. He's a friend to America, he's a friend to Palestine, he's a friend to Iran. But who has made mistakes? Who is wrong? Because in a war, there must be mistakes. So he's making those mistakes. So who is wrong, who is right? Museveni is quiet about that.
Mr. Museveni is classic here. He, you know, I don't want to be harsh onto him.
You don't have to.
You know, but if he deserves, I would. But I'm
he
not
has
going
been
to. I'm
very
not
lenient to you because you ran to exile Mr. Joseph Ochieno. He allowed you to come. You are here.
No. Can I clear that?
Yeah. He has been lenient to you.
No.
Yes.
No. Museveni has been terrible to me, my family, my party, and this country. Can I repeat that?
A man who ran to exile for over 20 years, he's back in Museveni's government and he's living.
I'm not in Museveni's government.
You
I'm back in my home.
You are in Amini's government.
No.
Your home is ruled by who? Who is the president of your home now? Your home country.
Oh. I am back in my home country.
Yes. Who is the president?
The Republic of Uganda.
Yes.
And my homeland.
And the president.
My father's home.
Yes.
Alex Obote.
Yes.
Son of Idony.
Yes.
Son of Ojuang.
Yes.
Son of Masanja.
Yes. The Spy Uganda, the Spy Television, Andrew Irumba Live Show. This show is called Andrew Irumba Live Show, and my name is Andrew Irumba Katusare. It's one-on-one with my senior comrade, Comrade Ochieno, Joseph Ochieno. He is a national leader in the UPC government, UPC party. But he's also a permanent spokesperson to the late president of Uganda, the late Iranian-Obote. Both are alive and dead. He is the spokesperson. Ochieno, you're welcome.
Thank you. Good to have you, my brother.
How do you like that introduction?
Both alive and dead.
Before they did, so I'm wondering.
No, I am speaking for what is the idea?
The idea.
What is the idea? Yes.
Okay.
When he was alive, I was speaking to what the president of the party, or what the president of the republic, or what the spokesperson of the anti-apartheid movement, and what the spokesperson of the liberation movements for total liberation of Africa.
Obote was a liberator.
Total liberator, yes.
Some people say Obote did nothing in this country.
Those
We
people
are looking for, like now in South Africa, we have a father of the nation, as Nelson Mandela. In Tanzania, we have father of the nation, Julius Kambarage Nyerere. In Kenya, we have father of the nation in the names of Jomo Kenyatta, isn't it? In Libya, we have father of the nation, the late Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. When I said that one, you said, yeah, he is the father of the nation.
Was it necessarily father of the nation?
Yeah, the Americans just killed him because of being the father figure of the nation. So, in Uganda, Rwanda has the father of the nation in the names of Paul Kagame. Burundi, you will help me. And Uganda. So who was the father of the nation in Uganda?
I think your context for father of the nation is, it leaves a little bit of conversation to be had. Fathers of the nation are concepts usually very much misused. We're not saying you're misusing it. They really refer to the founding leaders of nation states. Yes. So Uganda did not start with Museveni in 1986.
I have not said he's the father of the nation. I just asked you to help me to find out who is the father of the nation.
The father of the nation of the Republic of Uganda is Iranian-Obote. And I'm not sure if the father of the nation of Libya is Gaddafi, however much people might like him for different reasons. I have my own opinion about him, and we can discuss that later. But Iranian-Obote is the father of the Republic of Uganda.
Why?
Because he's the founding president and founding executive prime minister and founding president. Founding executive prime minister at independence in 1962 as an elected first African leader of Uganda, and founding president as the Republic of Uganda in 1967, particularly after he managed to successfully amidst various kind of contradictions, bring Uganda together and retain Uganda today as it is, following the 1966-67, in some people call it revolution, and suppose closer to a revolution in that sense. The radical move that established the Republic of Uganda and the Republican Constitution of 1967. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Mr. Ochieno, we had just passed there just for the introductory few comments. But today I wanted us to focus more on the war between Israel, Iran, and the cowboy America. America is the one facilitating Israel in the background. By the time we came to the press this morning, last night I was looking at Al Jazeera. Over 80 people, 80 Palestinians were killed by Israel while in the queue waiting for food, for aid. 80 people killed in the queue waiting for food aid by Israel. America is quiet. Then Trump yesterday at 4 a.m. the other night of Monday morning, 4 a.m., he says ceasefire. Then when he ceasefire, they put the microphone to Netanyahu. What are you saying? He says, no, we can go on ceasefire. I have achieved my goal. You have achieved your goal in killing the Iranians and destroying the country. You want us to go on ceasefire after you achieving your goal. No, Iran should also first achieve its goal. So for me, that is my thinking. You have come in my home. You have invaded me, Mr. Ochieno. You have killed my children. You have maimed my wife. Then you're saying, America that has been supporting you to do that is saying now ceasefire, please. Nobody should shoot at anybody. But remember, your family is intact, you. My family is missing some members. Do you think I would be wrong if I first also retaliated until you also lose some members? Then we can be equal and then we cease fire. So I will begin with you in that context, but I want us to give a general context in the war going on between Iran, Israel, and America in the background.
America is not in the background. America is at the forefront of this. America is the father, really, of the spoiled boy Netanyahu and his Zionist element of Israel.
Zionist?
Yes. Israel is a great nation. Majority of the Israeli people generally are very decent people. Many of them mainstream practitioners of Judaism are very religious people. But in Israel there is a pot of extremist hardline Jews who are more Jews than Jesus.
More Jews than Jesus?
Or at least in their heads. Many of those irritatingly have injected some idea in the minds of many Africans that Judaism is Judaism regardless of the criminality involved. And that Judaism you don't touch.
They normally say they are killing for Allah. When they kill, it's a blessing. Allah loves it.
So Allah of Muhammad and Allah of Judaism. But that is not my God. That's not my God. And the sooner Africans woke up to those realities, the better. Particularly we, the Africans, who are the deputy citizens of the world, whom in biblical terms, even in biblical terms, could be argued, were just extended this salvation after the boys and girls from Promised Land. So Africans ought to wake up to that. And if they did, they would understand, particularly Africans who follow this madness of Netanyahu extremism, if they woke up to those realities, I think we would begin to have an understanding that whatever is happening in the Middle East is criminal. The Arab-Israeli conflict itself, which, as I broadly normally refer to, which was then people confined it to Israel versus Palestine, but really basically is an Arabic thing, as you see it extend to the other end of the Persian Gulf. has been going on for a very long time. And it's basically a battle of the two extreme families of children and believers of Judaism versus those others who for whom Allah is neither here nor there. But whatever the case, I don't think that's the thing. The thing is basically what you talk about, the hypocrisy involved. That the Palestinians who are being maimed are human beings. The Persians who are being maimed are human beings. The Africans who have been maimed in the name of Arab-Israeli conflict are human beings. The Africans who were maimed and used and abused from the time of slavery to more recent times are human beings. And so, quite clearly, yes, there's the Jews who were killed in Holocaust were human beings. And so, indeed, the Jews who would have been killed as a result of this conflict. The point is, how do we pick and choose? We should not. And so that's why it's important that people got to understand that regardless of the historical context of this war, the reality is that Netanyahu is a Zionist extremist who does not only want to obliterate Palestinians, but wants to establish a Zionist state which is one in which Zionist extremism prevails. And unfortunately, he wants to do it in such a manner that their neighbors and sometimes blood relatives, the Palestinians, do not exist. And if they exist as slaves, like Africans have been slaves to imperialism. Here comes Trump doing the perfect thing that they've always done and they've always been trying to do over these years. In the more recent times, when this particular side of the war started, I was very disappointed that African countries predominantly kept quiet, with the exception of South Africa. I was very surprised that African students, including in my Makerere, have been quiet.
But you need to forgive
after all these days, they would.
The day when Professor Nawangwe came into Makerere University, you need to forgive those people. Yeah, you need to forgive them. You need to understand them. They are undergoing some psychological torture of some sort, and you don't understand it.
Seriously?
You know, during your times, it was okay to express your feelings about anything. Today, it's something different, so you need to forgive them. But let's continue there.
Yeah, so quite shocking. Africans should say no. The manner in which Palestine was treated, like the brutality that Israel subjected the Palestinians to, completely unacceptable. Granted, the language is Hamas, Hamas, Hamas. Hamas, yes, a terrible organization. Hamas, yes, do these things. Hamas, yes. But Hamas is almost like Joseph Coyne in a way, because Hamas did not start the conflict in Israel, in the Middle East, in Israel. Hamas actually came in as a much more radical group after the Americans and the Jewish extremists.
As a response.
Yes.
As a response.
Much more radical response when organizations like the Palestinian Liberation Organization of Yasser Arafat, your younger man then at the time.
You remember John Yasser Arafat?
Yes. Were undermined. Yasser Arafat was pushed to the stage of accepting the idea of what now people talk about, the two-state solution that Museveni writes about in
two-state solution. Yeah, we will also analyze
to simply say that, look,
we will analyze his speech.
Let Palestine, let Israel live in peace side by side with an independent Palestine state. So in Israel you'll find Arab Jews, but also in Israel you'll find Palestinians who are citizens of Israel. Just like in Uganda we have citizens who are Banyarwanda and we have citizens who are Congolese, and that's okay. And in Palestine, let the Palestine as an independent nation state live side by side with Israel, and in which you would possibly find Palestinian Jews, just as we now know there is a critical number of Iranian Jews in Iran, and live as independent nation state with sovereignty. There was a push for that Middle East peace settlement that included a major agreement as part of the Oslo Accord that was supposed to respect this. The pushes of this were to an extent, partly the Clintons of this world, President Clinton at the time. But most critically, the then massively impressive Israeli Prime Minister, Yitzhak Rabin, who was not only one of the most decorated war generals, but one of the most respected Israelis. He assumed the premiership on the ticket of peace and settlement. Achieved that. This big thing of his handshake with Yasser Arafat in front of the White House and others. Some of us who were youngsters at the time thought, well, at last peace has been achieved, especially because this came on the backdrop of the collapse of the Iron Curtain in Soviet Russia.
Iron Curtain.
Yes. So we thought,
metallic curtain.
Indeed. So we thought that after the death of the Iron Curtain, or at least the collapse, would come the end of apartheid. So we thought, in fact, for me, I was also quite naive, thinking that Africa being the grazing ground for the Cold War, once that settled, we would be allowed as Africans to live independently and think freely, ideologically, as we discuss these things to do with the non-aligned movement and others. But it never was. Do you know what happened to Rabin? Rabin was assassinated. The Israeli Prime Minister.
Who assassinated Rabin?
Netanyahu group of Jewish extremists.
And under there was CIA in the background.
Actually, I have no evidence, but quite clearly,
There is.
I'll not be surprised at that. So if you can imagine an Israeli Prime Minister assassinated by Israelis, and those Israelis are saying this Israeli man is terrible, and he's been a decorated war general, and has been critical thinking, saying that I have come to the conclusion that we cannot have a total attrition in this conflict. The best solution for our children's children, is to have an independent Jewish state side by side with an independent Palestinian state, living side by side with respect with others. And some group of Jewish extremists, in a wing that predominantly includes the thinking of Netanyahu, think that not only was that unacceptable, but that this guy is a traitor, and they go ahead and kill him. So I'm saying, if in Israel there are people who can think like that, to seek to kill one of the most celebrated, but also one of the most considered leaders of Israel, then I don't know what average Ugandan, what average Mozambican, what average Nigerian, is also going to boast that they have depth of understanding enough, to counter the position of Rabin. I don't know. And I don't know which African ruler today, many of them are rulers, not leaders. I don't know which African ruler today might think that they are much more Jews than Yitzhak Rabin.
Comrade Ochieno, you are an elder. Is it correct for America to be supporting Israel to be literally wiping out Palestinians, like I have told you in my introductory remarks? Last night, a group of Palestinians lining up for food aid, somebody comes and kills them, and America is quiet. But America at the end of the day is presenting itself as the headmaster of the world, as a peacemaker, as the moral compass of the world. Isn't that double standard?
It's not only double standard, but in any case, it's actually quite criminal. Particularly considering that in the course of this conflict, America, in a very rude way, criminally, goes on to bomb Israel. To bomb Palestine, or rather Iran. So Trump and this bunch basically organized and gun bomb Trump. Iran. And I noticed the Africans who actually clap. And those Africans whose head needs to be reviewed are clapping because an American president has bombed Iran. That they see, because there is, and I said, African, we need to wake up, young man. There are Africans who actually just think by conceding the illegality of Israel and American action on those non-Jews, non-relatives of Jesus, you're committing a sin. That actually is part of the problem. So I don't even think maybe we should be having this topic beyond a conversation about liberating our minds.
Mindset.
You know, I am Obote's permanent spokesperson, but Obote the idea.
Not Obote the person.
But you know what? No, Obote the person was a fantastic guy. We can also discuss that. Because on evidence, I will tell you that Obote is the greatest president this country has ever had. I can also tell you, because this is with my moral conscience, because you know what? May I do Jesus? Look at him up there. Because I am very confident, you know, that the God of Israel and the God of Abraham and the God of Jacob and the God, that God there,
And the
for
God
which
of
I'm
Joseph
Joseph, and the one Joseph, you know, oh no, that Milton Obote, on the basis of what I know, if there's some dubious thing Obote did, you know,
You don't know.
that I don't know. But what I know of Milton Obote, no, fantastic guy, that he has never killed, and he has never ordered the killing of a citizen. That I know. You see what I'm saying? So then I'm very comfortable with
But
that.
then some people were dying in Obote's government. So
Yes,
how
but-
were they dying yet
well,
he was the commander-in-chief?
You know, Commander-in-Chief, you know, then Museveni must have killed very many, hasn't he? He must have killed very many. No, I'm talking about ordering. Either killing directly, which we know, Museveni and Kagame doesn't want to hear this, you know, or ordering the killings. But he didn't. He even refused to sign a death warrant. And he told me that personally, that Joe, I don't have a right to sign off anybody's life, even if it would have been approved by some funny court. No, that is the person. Now, then pull you from that about it, then I bring you to my conviction about my Jesus. That the Jesus I religiously, genuinely understand, with my limitations, yeah, is a Jesus who would reject American action. Is a Jesus who would weep for those 80 Palestinians. But it's also a Jesus who would weep for the Israelis who are being killed. But that is the Jesus who would say, humanity, come and sit together. So that Jesus must have wept for the Israeli Prime Minister, Yitzhak Rabin. That's my point. So I don't know which African Jesus, these Africans, I don't know which Jesus, because I know that is basically what's bothering them. That because Netanyahu is the Prime Minister of a Jewish state, the land of Jesus, you know, he's got a carte blanche to do whatever he does. No, I reject it. Of course, it's not true. That's not true. So Africans must wake up. You know, you put it from there, then you bring it. Let me bring it to Uganda. It's that nonsense, and I'm using that very deliberately, and nonsense in the English definition. It's that nonsense that makes you by Toro, yeah, begin to look at your neighbors, including some who are your relatives. If one is a Protestant, another is a Catholic, another Seventh-day Adventist, and you categorize them. They're all beautiful looking citizens. And then you categorize it on the basis of your crooked faith.
On the basis of faith. I start judging them on the basis of their faith.
Do you get it? Do you get it?
So this is
And then we go ahead and risk
This is
Kampora, and then immediately we see somebody putting on a haji. We judge them, and this other girl putting on, and some of these girls putting on their veils. They're beautiful guys, by the way, and some of them are my friends once in a while. But I'm making a point here. You know, until 150 years ago, none of us knew these religions. None of them. So just because the Wasiram came and then they had a deal with Kabaka, wherever, they did deals and wherever, then particular section of Uganda became Muslims, and then Christians came, and then in my case, just the white fathers arrived quicker, you know, and then the predominant Catholics, like, you know, we became Catholics, whatever. I become so judgmental that I'm now less human because I'm a Catholic, and you're less human because you're a Protestant. An absolute nonsense. Africans must wake up. These imported faiths. But in any case, I'm saying they're imported. But if they're not imported, yeah, then the originators of this faith, meaning, you know, Chief Muhammad and Umayyad Bwana Jesus, they don't judge on the basis of this nonsense that Netanyahu and Trump, you know, use to exploit, and we Africans follow like zombies. It is criminal, whatever's happening in the Middle East.
Okay, let's go into now the commercial bit of the war. Israel spent a total of 67.5 billion US dollars on its war on Gaza by end of 2024. 67.5 billion US dollars. The 2024 budget is what Israel spent on. Huh? Then Israel is estimated to be spending 725 million US dollars per day on the conflict with Iran. Israel is spending 725 million US dollars, not Uganda shillings, US dollars per day on the Iran war, which Israel itself started. Let me hear your views on that.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
That is the global injustice around humanity. Even if you reduced that money to shillings, you know what 600,000 shillings is in Uganda currency? That is salary for 12 workers, 12 day-to-day workers, the kind of people bring for us tea here, outside Kampala. In Kampala, there are people who are paid 50,000 shillings a month. Did you know that? Oh yeah, I know. The home helps, call them maids, home helps, who earn that amount of money. So that's salary for 12 human beings in Kampala. We can pay some of them very quickly. That's salary for 10
These
human
guys
average
are
people.
spending it per day?
No, that is 12 times whatever else. You can see how many people it would be. The amount of money. So it's a huge amount of money. A huge amount of money. But in any case, we know it's not surprising. The people who are spending that money, most of that money, some of that money is coming from America, and some of that money is coming from exploits of our gold. Some of that is coming from the exploits of our oil. You see, some of that is coming from our classified budgets. But I'm talking about the global injustice. I know you're trying to take me in a particular direction, but I'm actually contextualizing it for you. It's not surprising that the global inequality when it comes to poverty is so huge. It's not surprising that the West want to continue to put Africa in a state in which we continue to beg and they come basically just to suck money from us. What does Israel produce in terms of natural resources? One, what's the size of Israel as a land? And two, what natural resources do they produce? Granted, in the last several other years, advance of technology and things like that, they now spend they've been making money out of that. So no, quite clearly, it's a global thing for which we know these guys went to Iraq. They bombed Iraq because of oil. They're doing the same thing in Iran because of oil and an exploitation basically of natural resources in the Middle East, so that they're able to subdue. But you could say this thing is economic, but the point is the conflict is ideological, and it's an ideology of race. It's ideology of race. There is a Zionist element, you can say, is basically religious, but also identity, meaning the Jews who think they're special Jews, special human beings, and then Anglo-Saxon groups of the Trumps who believe that you must be special white in order to control America. That's how Trump rose as an element to counter Barack Obama. Trump rose as an element of white extremists to counter Barack Obama. The white establishment in America was so shocked that an African has come up to take the most important office in the world. So, white extremism was under threat. And so you can imagine, by then Netanyahu was quite rude to Obama those days. So Netanyahu also didn't like Obama, by the way. And the reason was basically, if you were to rebalance America, the father of this criminal kind of stuff, with the moderate people like Barack Obama, or new faces that don't look like white, world order was going to change. One of the reasons why they couldn't allow Bernie Sanders to be president of America, because this criminality would not be taking place. One of the reasons why they couldn't allow Jeremy Corbyn in Britain to become prime minister, because we would not sanction what Keir Starmer is doing. Keir Starmer is a prime minister of the party that I support in Britain, but Keir Starmer is as right-wing almost as many of the average American guys who are pushing for this Anglo-Jewish thing. Yeah.
Okay, now, Comrade Joseph Ochieno, I want us to analyze the speech of the President Museveni, the statement he made yesterday about the ongoing war in Iran. I will read for you verbatim, and then I will ask you to give your comment. Citizens of the world, my name is General Retired Yoweri Museveni of the Resistance Movement of Uganda and President of Uganda. Hey, you are already laughing. So, are you contesting the fact that he is not of the Resistance Movement of Uganda?
I don't know what he was resisting, because he was resisting Africanism, you know. Yeah.
I am also chairman of the NAM, Non-Aligned Movement, until 2027. The other day, I saw a complaint by the Iranian ambassador to Uganda as to why we have not commented on the tragic situation in the Middle East. It is true that we have not yet externalized our long-held views on that situation. Good enough, we have got good relations with both Israel and Iran. Not to forget the United States of America and the other countries of the world. In our long history of resistance, we harbor chauvinism of identity, race, tribe, religion, etc., or gender. Looking down upon women, we always stand for the politics of interests, the legitimate interests of the stakeholders. With that outlook, we have noticed and told most of the concerned actors the following mistake makers. Number one, we told the Iranians that according to the Bible, Israel is part of that area. The Romans dispersed the Jews after Masada, who continued to suffer wherever they went in Europe, North Africa, and Asia until they tried to go back to their homeland with the Zionist movement. The habitual mistake makers, the British imperialists, in the person of some wonderful man known as Lord Balfour in 1924, offered the Jews Uganda as a homeland. Imagine the absurdity. The Jews wisely refused the ridiculous offer and insisted on Palestine, where they had a historical legitimate claim. It was therefore correct that the United Nations decided to partition Palestine among the two people. It has been wrong for some of the Arabs and Iranian Islamists to refuse to recognize that historical solution. The second group of mistake makers are the Israelis themselves. Why have they refused the implementation of the two-state solution? It is not correct for them to say that the Palestinians do not belong there. Whenever I would meet Mzee Benson Netanyahu's father, I would ask him about the 7 tribes of Canaan that we read about in the Bible. The Jebusites, etc. What happened to them? How about the Philistines of Gaza? Even if you assume that all those people perished, they are people who migrated into the area when the Romans dispersed the Jews in AD 70. You cannot say that they don't belong there. If you say that, then what would you say about the Europeans who migrated to the Americans, Australia, South Africa, etc. in just the last 400 years? This is indeed what Idi Amin was saying when he expelled our Indians, that they didn't belong to Uganda. We rejected that logic. The third mistake makers in the matter are the Western imperialists, led by the Central Intelligence Agency CIA, who in 1953 overthrew the democratically elected leader of Iran, Mohammad Mossadegh, because they wanted to steal the oil of Iran. It is them that created that huge resentment that produced these clerics who have their own mistaken position. I was indeed amazed that they didn't even know well even the history of their own country. Imagine me, Yoweri Museveni, of the great lakes of Africa, from the Bible. I had heard repeated references to the Persians and Medians, whose laws do not change. When I visited Iran, I asked Ahmadinejad, what happened and who were the Medians? Neither Ahmadinejad nor anybody around knew about the Medians. It was when they went to the university that they got some old man that knew something about the Medians. Fundamentalists of all types, Islamic or Christian, are a danger to humanity. We all have heard of the Inquisition of the Christian fundamentalists, and we know how the Islamic fundamentalists destroyed the great country of Sudan. Mistake number 4 is to believe that the use of force, especially force from outside the concerned country, is a solution. It is not, and always invites reactions that may even affect the interventionists. You want examples? Here they are. The papacy trying to maintain Catholic hegemony in Europe. The Metternich of Austria-Hungary trying to fight the bogus idea of the French Revolution on behalf of the old feudal order of Europe. The 14 intervention powers that intervened in the Soviet Union to exploit the communist movement, etc. All failed, and sometimes the interventionists ended up disappearing. You want examples? Where is the Austro-Hungarian Empire? Therefore, force should be for legitimate defense and not for aggression. We appeal and advise the actors in the Middle East to draw back from the use of force and go back to the principled diplomacy. Iran and the Islamists should listen to our advice to recognize Israel, and Israel should implement the two-state solution. As I conclude, I would like to use this opportunity to remind all of us that we are all praying people. Perhaps it's time that we all agree to pray together and consult that Creator that cares for all of us without preference. May we have the willingness to humble ourselves and pray and ask for God's wisdom, that we may do what is right in His eyes. Maybe that time has come, and only He has the power, the right, and the justice to decide what is the way forward for all of us. Yoweri Kaguta Museveni signed yesterday.
Signed yesterday.
Yeah, signed yesterday. So I want you to do two things. Analyze Museveni's statement. First, on my own analysis, I realized that Museveni has remained undecided. Who is wrong? Who is right? This is my analysis. The three parties involved in the Iranian war and Palestine, Museveni has blamed none. In fact, he supports all of them. He's a friend to America, he's a friend to Palestine, he's a friend to Iran. But who has made mistakes? Who is wrong? Because in a war, there must be mistakes. So he's making those mistakes. So who is wrong, who is right? Museveni is quiet about that. Why? Because I think he wants to maintain good relations with all the three countries.
No. That is typical Museveni.
Yeah.
Yeah, typical Museveni. That's why once in a while,
I was waiting. I was reading, looking forward to see whom would he blame for this.
and to be fair, to make it easier for him to not even be to whom to blame, whom would he hold responsible if he doesn't want to blame? If he doesn't want to use harsh words, yes.
Who is responsible?
Yes. No, Mr. Museveni is classic here. He, I don't want to be harsh onto him.
You don't have to.
But if he deserves, I would. But I'm
not
going to.
I'm very lenient to you because you ran to exile Mr. Joseph Ochieno. He allowed you to come. You are here.
No. Can I clear that?
Yeah. He has been lenient to you.
No.
Yes.
No. Museveni has been terrible to me, my family, my party, and this country. Can I repeat that?
A man who ran to exile for over 20 years, he's back in Museveni's government and he's living.
I'm not in Museveni's government.
I
am back in my home.
You are in Amin's government?
No.
Your home is ruled by who? Who is the president of your home now? Your home country?
Oh. I am back in my home country?
Yes, who is the president
of the Republic of Uganda?
Yes.
And my homeland?
And the president?
My father's home?
Yes.
Alex Obote?
Yes.
Son of Idon,
Yes.
son of Ojuang,
Yes.
son of Masanja.
Yes.
Can I continue?
Yes.
Okay.
Continue.
No, at least those four
So
generations.
now who is the president? So who is the president of that land?
So I don't know which part of that was a gift by Museveni or his father or his grandfather.
There are some facts that you refuse, that you
No,
not accept.
no. Number two, no, because we're talking this. I escaped to exile. Museveni arrested me at Makerere University. These guys, another guys fear ideas. That's why they go chuk 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 chuk. I was arrested in Makerere, tortured, safe housed. I narrowly escaped to exile. So I did not go to exile. I escaped to exile. I campaigned.
You are now back.
I campaigned for return to multipartyism, and after returning to multipartyism, I returned to my country, not as a gift by Museveni. Nobody has got a right to give you the right of your country. In fact, this is as relevant as the struggles of the Palestinians, as indeed the struggles, legitimate struggles of a section of the Jews for their homeland. So that is not a gift by God.
So who is the president of the country where you came back to?
Museveni rules Uganda, but Museveni rules Uganda.
Anyway,
moreover, very illegitimately, because nobody elected him in 1986.
Let's concentrate on this speech.
But number two, so this guy is somebody who plays guys who play friends, like ladies who want to have many friends and kind of stuff. That sort of is like Museveni. But then number three, Museveni writes as Yoweri Museveni of the one unfortunately UPC and mainstream Ugandans have known. Almost always about he himself and nothing else. So he does not actually write to represent the non-aligned movement. He writes as Yoweri Museveni, because actually you can see there's no emphasis about the non-aligned movement, which I find very unfortunate. The non-aligned movement is a powerful global organization, and for Museveni as its chairman to write as if he's telling storytelling is actually rather cheek. So I'm very disappointed with that. It's a detailed historical thing for a history student.
Very good history and very good information.
For a history student, but for a history professor, he would have actually given some solutions. But for a political leader, especially his chairperson, should have been doing better. But here's somebody who's wanting to play almost like, allow me to use the word prostitute, wants to please everybody.
Use another one.
In a political way. But
double dealer. Maybe use a word double dealer.
I know this is a Pan-Africanist forum, and I'm doing so deliberately, but with a very heavy heart, because unless I use that word, I don't think it will make sense. People who your friend to one person in the morning, somebody else in the afternoon. Pan-Africanists that I am, and Pan-Africanists that you are,
that Museveni
and Pan-Africanism that this program
that
is,
Museveni is,
that Museveni claims to be,
he is,
cannot be this. And I think we need to take that position. And if you are late to be a Pan-Africanist and you have the privilege of being a leader of the non-aligned movement, then you should do better. So Mr. Museveni is doing that because he's pleasing in one end his masters, but he's also in the other playing in between. Look, the non-aligned movement was founded in 1961 very deliberately as an organization to push for the recognition of the fact that there was the Eastern Bloc, then led by the Soviet Union, and the Western Bloc, then led by Anglo-America, and major nations that later included many African nations recognized that they didn't want to play, slaves to these ideological things. They wanted to reclaim themselves and build themselves, develop themselves. And in any case, the non-aligned movement, in a very historical way, made huge contributions towards the emancipation and liberation of predominantly African countries. That does not come out in Mr. Museveni's later. And so for that, if it came, you would know how much the West, Museveni's friends, the Trumps, pushed for making sure that African nations did not get liberated. Instead, the Americans, particularly the Bush, the Republicans, the Trump group, soothed and created apartheid movements in South Africa. The Elon Musk, formerly groups of exploiting Africa against Africans, kind of stuff. Cheek and it's terrible. He's right in as far as the question of the solution is the two-state solution, which I referred to much earlier. That's the commonsensical position. And by the time the nation states came to the realization of two-state solution, certain radical hardline Israelis had now come to terms with the reality that there was no way. You can't sweep off Arabs, Palestinians, and the Palestinian mainstream also recognizing that you cannot just sweep off the Jewish state. It's unfair to suggest to Iran that Iran doesn't want to recognize Israel.
Does it?
No, it does. But I've been on this thing. I've been on this game for the last 35 years, very closely. Is Iran amongst the more radical Arab nation states to be pushed to the state in which they recognize the idea of the right of Israel Israel to exist as an independent nation state side by side with the Palestinian state was a long thing coming for many Arab nation states. They eventually did that. I don't know which nation state does not recognize that. So all Arab countries have been compelled to drink the idea of an Israeli state that actually uses and abuses and does some extreme things against Palestinians and Arabs in those regions. But say, for the sake of peace and stability long term, let's do that. So it's unfair. So no, Iran recognizes the right for self-determination for the Palestinians as well as the Israelis. Because Iran is the voice that generally comes out and simply say, no, we shall support those people who are seeking self-determination for themselves. They're seen as the bad boys. Just like Milton Obote was seen as the bad boy here once he secured Uganda against exploitation and went to reclaim Southern Africa. Israel and others in the Americans simply said, no, that's the bad guy, so begin giving him the terrible name. So that is the thing.
Israel and America are attacking Iran on suspicion that they are manufacturing nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
However, America
and Israel
are doing the same.
Both have they're not doing. They both have nuclear weapons. Yes.
China has them. Russia has them. So
India has it.
So I want to ask, who has to give permission to the other not to do what exactly they are doing? It's like Mr. Ochieno, if we came here, we are both men. And they say, no, and we are not supposed to take coffee. However, for you are taking coffee. So I will ask myself, who gave Ochieno permission to ask me not to take coffee, whereas he's taking, if coffee is bad for men, why is Ochieno taking coffee? At the same stopping me. Who is he, by the way?
It's imperialist arrogance.
So I wanted to interrogate you on that. Who gives America and Israel power that, please, we see you manufacturing what is it? Nuclear
bombs, yes.
Stop there. Meanwhile, my factories are going on in my own country. I mean,
I told at the beginning it was ideological racism. So somehow there are people who believe that they're more human enough, and then there are people who have sort of a capacity to recognize that, Andrew, we can trust you with a nuclear weapon, but my drunken son can do anything he wants because I know, kind of stuff. We can't trust you. We can't trust you with we can't trust you with a spear. But my drunken son, we can trust him with a treble bomb. Including a hand grenade. How cheek? And then the guy had said, no, because you Batoro, we don't trust you there, no whatever. For us, we are special, but you is a particular corner. We know how we look.
For us, it's okay for you.
For us, it's actually terrible. Now, again, as I said, Africans need to wake up to begin to think about these things. Africans need to begin to think. At this stage,
actually, Africa needs to start manufacturing a nuclear bomb.
That's where I'm coming to. First of all, African nations need to rise up and say no to the impunity of Anglo-America, to the impunity of Zionism. Africans who are driven by this religious dogma need to wake up to the reality that Ochieno says that he's a Christian and Jesus is this man. But the reality is that what Netanyahu and Trump are doing in the Middle East, Jesus would not associate with. So Africans need to come up to that reality and realize that. And then after that, indeed, but there's no other reason that people are pushing. That's why I'm pushing it. There is no other reason why Africans are madly following this thing blindly, except allegedly for Jesus. And the irony is some of these people who Nyongo Jesus on Thursday, in the evening on Sunday, they're doing dubious things, they're stealing from robbers, some of them are killing, some of them are juju and kind of stuff. So Africans can be really hypocrites, but those are my people, you know. But no, no, it should stop. Then after that, we mobilize, recognize if Iran can be humiliated, we should begin to secure our gold. We should begin to secure our oil. We should begin to secure our timber, and we should begin to say no to Pineti. We should begin to consider taking Museveni to prison for giving money to Pineti, and that DPS woman in an attack. Of course, and he's very lucky for now. You know, we do this. So that my point is, I'm using that, you know, figuratively, so that we do it here in Uganda, we do it in Congo. Maybe then Africans can wake up and we begin to look after our own. In the course of doing that, we begin to also prepare for our bomb. Jesus, South Africa is alleged to have nearly had it under apartheid. And then the deal was when Mandela was coming, these Africans, can you imagine you Africans? And Africans like to boast, man. Don't you see me pretending to boast that I'm smart and that I'm a man. Africans like to boast, but sometimes they can be real cowards, especially when they refuse to think in early mornings with coffee. You know? So, no. South Africa ought to have had the bomb. I think South Africa needs to begin to consider also mobilizing and doing nuclear bomb. Yeah? Yes. You know, dear Congo. From the country, dear Congo, we got all the materials, man. Me, I will become, I want to study science now, become a research assistant, you know, for dear Congo, or other nation states like Egypt. Egypt is Africa, whatever kind of, but maybe even in Egypt. But black African nation states and Nigeria, they should begin to do this. You know, Pakistan development and bomb happened in the lifestyle of my campaign in exile. Pakistan didn't have that bomb the other time. The discussion around Pakistan and India, oh, Pakistan has a bomb, and is developing a bomb, it has bomb, there will be threat to India because they're conflict nation state. But they're allowed to have it. Pakistan was allowed to have it. So they went ahead. The Pakistani one is much more recent than the Indian one. So this African thing, man. So now I'm told, we are very smart at having nuclear families in charge, rather than think about a nuclear bomb that will become a deterrent to
nuclear families.
Oh Jesus!
Nuclear families instead of nuclear bomb.
Yes, my brother.
So this thing of this mentality of America and Israel, thinking that Iran, you cannot have this, but for us it's okay, we can have it. Because, Ochieno, if I am grooming my biggest barking dog in my courtyard, I am grooming it for myself. You only blame me if it comes out to attack you.
That's correct, yes.
I am grooming it for myself, to protect myself.
Yes.
If Iran is manufacturing its nuclear power,
and Iran is one of the oldest civilizations on earth.
And they are not planning to attack Iran.
Yeah.
And Iran has not attacked you with it.
What should you do about that?
What is your problem?
Yeah. No.
That is number one. Number two, if America and Israel are saying no other country should have nuclear power, what about you have them? Who are you? Why are you not asking Russia? Why are you not asking China?
That's why I'm saying Africans ought to begin to think.
So you can imagine the entire Africa, 55 countries now, no clear bomb. That's why they can attack. Even the smallest country from outside can come and attack us and steal everything.
Yeah, that's what they did too.
Because they are not scared.
Yeah.
A home that has a very strong backing dog, thieves will think twice before they invade the home.
That is true. That is true.
You know that?
Yeah, that is true.
I used to visit my friend Kasiriguanga. He had a dog as big as this. He'd move with it in the car. Every time he called me, come over. When I reach at the gate, the first thing he did is step at the car. His dad was calling me, but they can't enter the gate. I can't.
You're an African coward, man.
The other dogs, he had the two dogs. One is like a bull. My friend, you enter there without. I would first call him I found him at the gate. Then he calls his dog, he would just call them, they just lie below him, under his feet. Then he tells you come. Otherwise, they always at the gate.
I didn't know you were such a Pan-African coward. Tell me.
You do it at the gate. The dog has, his mouth has passed through the gate and it is there. Quiet waiting for you step there. So when you call him, he would call them. They go. When they go, he tells you come. So that is Iran. If I'm manufacturing my weapons to protect my home, and you're not planning to invade my home to steal my oil, what is your problem? How come when you're manufacturing you as Israel and America and I am not bothered? Because I'm not planning to attack you. Iran has never been bothered by America manufacturing whatever they want to, because they're not planning to attack them.
Can I take you back?
Yes.
Interestingly, as part of global hegemony, Russia has it. You see the stalemate in Ukraine. China is soon going to take over America. China has. You see these nation states. One thing that we must remind ourselves: the continent without a nuclear bomb is Africa. So it really worries me that
the continent without a nuclear bomb is called Africa.
It's called Africa. And yet this continent, which has all the resources.
Yes. Actually, those who have the nuclear bomb have got the resources from Africa.
Here. One of the reasons why they're very uncomfortable with Burkina Faso. One of the reasons why they've made sure Congo doesn't grow. In 1961, as the non-aligned movement was being formed, that's the same year that they made sure that they killed Patrice Lumumba, Prime Minister of Congo. Why? Because if Lumumba remained alive and Lumumba did not become a life president for his family, Congo would possibly be now
the nuclear
powerhouse of Africa.
Because they have everything.
So particularly you guys who like to, Lumumba, the people like to use the Lumumba name without whatever. Think about it. People who went to Lumumba Hall in Makere, by the Lumumba Hall,
you were in Lumumba Hall?
No, of course I was in Michu. We gentlemen, we rats. But there's something about, I want to give credit to Lumumba, yeah? Give it. Lumumba Hall, for the name of Lumumba, is the largest hall built, of course, by Iranian-Obote. By the way, we built Lumumba Hall. Oh, yes. We did. Built by you. We built Lumumba Hall. We built Micho.
So who suggested the name Lumumba Hall? Who named it?
Honestly, to be fair, I don't know, but I'll be surprised to not come from our thinking. Yeah, but honestly, I don't know. But it's very likely.
You built Lumumba Hall.
We built Lumumba Hall. Yeah, we built.
Obote government.
We built Lumumba Hall, and we built Mary Stuart box, and we built
Mary Stuart.
Yes, we built the main library.
So Mary Stuart, what's so about Mary Stuart?
Mary, she was a great academician there. Yes, but of course then we built Nkrumah. Yeah. So, but the point is this: Lumumba, not only being the largest hall on campus, but it has this tradition that most of their students were always very sharp, very loud, very Lumumbist. And that's my point. So you can't go to Lumumba, you can't be a Lumumbist, and then you go you see, So I'm saying, wake up, Africans.
Yeah.
You
like that word.
No, because it's a disciplined, irritant statement. Young Africans, and I can see your cameraman, and then another one, the young fantastic guys, man. If they really want to believe that they're young men and women, they should begin to think, and they should begin to take action. We need to mobilize as a continent. Uganda needs to be politically and economically and socially liberated. East Africa needs to be the same. This continent needs to be the same. We need to mobilize and organize so that when the incidents and events like the Arab-Israeli, in this case particularly Israel-Iranian conflict emerges, the injustice happens in the evening. By morning, we have a position. That's why finally on Mr. Museveni's letter, I was shocked that as chairman of the non-aligned movement, you wait for a complaint from an Iranian ambassador in your country before you comment. That's a huge institutional weakness. So I don't know who advises Mr. Museveni, when it comes to PDM. I don't know who advises him on non-aligned movement. But since we know Museveni has no advisor,
he has over 80.
Oh, okay. But do they fear? Maybe
well advised.
Maybe they take 2 times. Very difficult to find him. Find time. I'm told some of his advisors wait 3. The 2 deputy student leaders for the demonstration, and the demonstration was because Samora Machel had been killed by Anglo-Boer groups, in apartheid Boer groups in Southern Africa. And it was now into the third day. And Museveni had quietly not said anything. So we Makerere University students, take note, we Makerere University students said no. We've not had a statement from government. We're banning with injustice. Samora Machel has been killed. And for me, I remember, I think even Onyango was amongst among the junior journalists at the time. And I remember him asking me. So one of the things was this. How can Samora Machel, an African revolutionary, be killed by Boers? You know? Museveni, who allegedly associates and was happy to have been as part of these guys in there, thanks to the organization of the Uganda People's Congress, Milton Obote president, and Julius Nyerere, to lead Museveni to Frelimo camps. And Mozambique. And Museveni is now a president here. And he has said nothing. After 3 days, and it's quiet. So it's important to put this on record. That you don't take some of these critical leadership positions.
So what happened? What did you do? You finished your
No, we demonstrated up to inside town and back. We were at a demonstration, and the following Museveni issued a statement. Yes. Museveni issued a statement. At least to be fair, we went to town and back, and the media covered it. And those days Muhoozi was still young, so there was nobody to whip and to X. So,
there was no basement. The building structures were still very few. There was no basement.
No. No, 1 year later, I experienced a basement. I don't know where, but there are very many basements. The basement of those days, I think it had been this now Serena Hotel. Then it was called Nile Hotel. It was not Nile Hotel. Nile was Museveni's friend, Idi Amin, and Gaddafi and Moses Ali. Lest you forget, Gaddafi with Moses Ali and Idi Amin, they tortured and contributed for the killing of several thousand Ugandans.
Gaddafi? How was Gaddafi?
Gaddafi was the #1 supporter of Idi Amin for the 8 years Amin was president here. Gaddafi was the one who backed Amin fully after Amin fell out with the British and Israelis. Yeah?
Which was a good thing for Gaddafi to support Amin, because Amin had fallen with the British. That was Pan-Africanism.
In a way, I don't know.
That was Pan-Africanism.
No, in a way, I don't know whether it was Pan-Africanism.
Yeah.
No, Gaddafi and Saudi Arabia supported Idi Amin simply because Idi Amin was their Muslim brother. Oh yes. But no, my Africans should think and read, because this is very important. Now, fair enough. You know, Amin had fallen out with the British and Israel. Gaddafi did not support him because of that. Gaddafi supported him because of the Muslim brother. In fact, Amin went ahead and told Saudi Arabia that 95% of the Ugandan population is Muslim. So Saudi Arabia...
That's why he wanted to Islamize the country.
That's correct. So you see how Africa has suffered. So then, by 1979, as we're fighting Idi Amin, you know, Libyan, you know, we Ugandan Liberation Forces, meaning the genuine Ugandan National Liberation Forces, we beat Gaddafi's guys. That's one of the reasons why Gaddafi really hated Obote and Nyerere, because he said, well, these guys humiliated him. So the Nyerere that you guys praise these days, you don't know that. So once in a while, you should have me on your program.
That's why
I take contextualize African history.
That's why you're taking over this with our
coffee. And fantastic coffee, and thank you for your time. I mean, for hosting me. No, but so there's an element of Gaddafi that was well-meaning, but you should know Gaddafi's history, and you should also know Gaddafi's intention. No, Africans need to have a sense of originality and ownership, where then you're able to see Gaddafi in his own image, and then there is an indigenous mainstream African cause that takes you forward. So in other words, we don't get excited by Libya, we don't get excited by America, we don't get excited by Iran, whatever. What is the indigenous African original thing, and what is it that we're thinking for our children's children? Where Iran, Gaddafi, Anglo-America, they come in as our friends, but on our terms. Think about it, young man. On our terms.
And on that note, thank you so much, Comrade Joseph Ochieno, a very strong believer in the Obote idea. I hope that one is clear.
The Obote idea, yes. And the Pan-Africanist idea.
Oh, of course.
And progressive left-wing socialism idea, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. My name is Andrew Rumba, and this is the Andrew Rumba Live Show. Thank you.